Alina stepped into the grand restaurant, as if she had crossed an invisible border between two worlds, one she knew too well, and one she had only ever imagined from afar. The soft glow of chandeliers reflected off polished glass and silverware, making everything feel distant, almost unreal. She adjusted the sleeves of her simple dress, trying to smooth out the creases that refused to disappear, and tightened her grip on her small handbag. Every step she took felt heavier than the last, as though the marble floor itself questioned her presence. She reminded herself why she had come on unexpected message, offering a possible job opportunity, a rare chance she could not afford to ignore. When the hostess directed her toward a table in the corner, Polina didn't question it. She simply nodded and walked over, grateful not to be turned away. Sitting down, she kept her posture straight, her hands folded neatly in front of her, while her mind raced with rehearsed answers and quiet prayers. She didn't notice the subtle glances from nearby diners or the way. A few whispers floated through the air. To her, this moment was too important to be distracted by anything else. Minutes passed, stretching longer than they should, until suddenly the atmosphere shifted. A man approached the table with a calm confidence that silenced the space around him. His suit was perfectly tailored, his expression composed yet thoughtful, and there was something in his presence that made people instinctively move aside. Polina immediately stood, her chair scraping softly against the floor as panic rose in her chest. "I'm so sorry," she said quickly, her voice barely steady. "I think I've taken the wrong table." She reached for her bag, ready to leave, before she caused further embarrassment. But the man didn't react the way she expected. Instead of calling someone or correcting her sharply, he simply looked at her, as if seeing past the surface of her nervousness and worn appearance. Then, without a hint of irritation, he pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. "Stay," he said, his voice low but firm, carrying an authority that made her freeze. Alina blinked, confused, her fingers tightening around her bag. "But I don't belong here," she whispered, more to herself than to him. A faint, knowing smile appeared on his lips as he leaned back slightly, his gaze steady and calm. "Maybe not by accident," he replied, "but perhaps by timing." Something in his tone made her hesitate, the urge to run slowly fading. Her heart still raced, but now it wasn't just fire, it was curiosity and a fragile, unfamiliar sense that this mistake might not be a mistake at all. Alina sat stiffly across from him, her fingers curled tightly around the edge of her handbag, as if it were the only thing keeping her grounded. The word "stay still" echoed in her mind, heavy with meaning she didn't fully understand. She glanced around nervously, half expecting someone to come and correct the situation, to tell her to leave, to remind her she didn't belong in a place like this. But no one came. Instead, waiters moved with quiet precision, and the soft murmur of conversation resumed, as though nothing unusual had happened, except everything felt different to her. The man across from her seemed completely at ease. He picked up the menu, but didn't open it, his attention still fixed on her, in a way that made her both uncomfortable and strangely seen. "What's your name?" he asked, his tone calm, not interrogative, but genuinely curious. "Felina," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded slightly. "I'm Adrian." He didn't add anything more. No title, no explanation. Yet, there was an unmistakable weight to the simplicity of his introduction. Alina sensed it immediately. This was not just any man. The way the staff subtly watched him, the respect in their movements, the silence that followed his presence set, all pointed to something far greater. "I really think there's been a misunderstanding," Alina said quickly, gathering what little courage she had. "I was told to come here for a job interview, but I don't think it was this." Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she spoke, each word feeling like a confession of her own mistake. Adrian finally opened the menu, glancing at it briefly before setting it aside again. "What kind of job were you expecting?" he asked. "Anything," she admitted honestly. "I just need work." There was no pretense in her voice, no attempt to impress, just quiet truth. "I'll do whatever I can." For a moment, he said nothing. He simply studied her, as if weighing not her words, but the sincerity behind them. Then, he signaled a waiter with a small gesture, ordering, without even looking at the menu again. It was effortless, practiced. You came here because you needed an opportunity, he said after a pause. Not because you were sure of it. Alina nodded slowly, unsure where this was leading. He leaned forward slightly, his expression softening in a way that surprised her. Good. That means you're honest. Most people who sit at this table come with rehearsed confidence and hidden intentions. His lips curved faintly. You came with neither. Her confusion deepened, but so did her curiosity. I don't understand. Why are you helping me? Adrian's gaze didn't waver. Because sometimes, he said quietly, the wrong table reveals the right person. Alina felt her breath catch. The fear inside her hadn't disappeared, but it had changed, shifting into something fragile and unfamiliar. Hope. The dinner unfolded in a way Alina could never have imagined. What began as a mistake slowly turned into a moment suspended between disbelief and quiet transformation. Plates of beautifully arranged food arrived one after another, each dish more elegant than anything she had ever seen. Yet she barely noticed the details. Her attention remained fixed on Adrian, his calm presence, on the strange sense of ease he created around her despite the overwhelming setting. At first, she hesitated to even touch the food, worried she might do something wrong. But his simple nod encouraged her to begin. You don't have to be perfect here, he said gently. Just be yourself. Those words, so simple, yet so rare in her life, loosened something inside her. As they spoke, the conversation shifted from cautious answers to something more natural. Alina told him about her struggles, how she had worked small jobs, how she had lost opportunities, not because she lacked effort, but because she lacked connections. She spoke about the nights she went to bed, uncertain of tomorrow, yet still woke up, determined to try again. There was no self-pity in her voice, only quiet resilience. Adrian listened without interruption, his expression thoughtful, as though every word mattered. When she finished, silence settled briefly between them, not awkward, but meaningful. Then Adrian leaned back slightly, his decision already made. Come to my office tomorrow, he said, his tone steady. 9 a.m. Alina blinked, unsure she had heard correctly. Your office. He gave a small nod. I run this company. The interview you were expecting. Consider this, the first part of it. Her heart skipped, disbelief flooding her expression. But I didn't do anything. I don't have qualifications like others. I don't even belong in places like this. Adrian's gaze sharpened, not with harshness, but with certainty. You stayed when you were afraid. You spoke the truth when it would have been easier to pretend. And you didn't walk away from an opportunity just because it didn't look the way you expected. He paused, letting his words settle. That's exactly why you belong. For a moment, Alina couldn't speak. The weight of everything, her struggles, her fears, this unexpected chance, rose all at once, blurring her vision with unshed tears. She nodded slowly, holding on to the moment as if it might disappear. As she left the restaurant that night, the same doors that once felt intimidating now seemed like the beginning of something new. What started as sitting at the wrong table had led her to the right path, and for the first time in a long while, the future didn't feel so uncertain anymore.